Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Shalia Ben. I'm the Assistant Director of the Native American Arts Program and Community Outreach here at Idyllwild Arts. On behalf of Idyllwild Arts, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the Coishba Coeagna, also known as the Cahuilla Band of Indians, and all 9 sovereign bands of Cahuilla people who have stewarded this land for generations and continue to steward this land for all future generations. This evening, I welcome you to our 3rd installment of the Michael Kabotie Artist Talks series. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians, the Chickasaw Nation, San Manuel, and an anonymous foundation. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Joe Baker and Taria Smith, who are our senior consultants to the Native American Arts Festival Week. Thank you so much. Be sure to join us at idyllwildarts.org/creation to take a look at the online exhibition and take a look at our past Artist Talk series. Big shout out to Christy Scott who organized all of that. Without further ado, I'd like to get started and introduce Luanne Redeye, who will join us for our 3rd installment of our Artist Talk series. I'll turn it over to Nina Sanders, who will share a few words about Luanne's work. Nina.
Luanne Redeye. Luanne paints the human experience. Her work is so visceral and intimate, her subjects become part of you. The first time I spent with Luanne and her work was when we were both amidst residencies at the School for Advanced Research. I learned that everything she creates is contemplative and poignant. Luanne creates to tell us her family and her people's stories. She teaches us through her elegant, precise strokes of paint, turning beauty into truth and reclaiming her own history.
Hi, I'm Luanne Redeye. I'm Seneca. I am a member of the Hawk Clan. I grew up on the Allegany Indian Reservation in Western New York, and I currently live and work in Binghamton, New York. My larger body of work is primarily oil paint, and I focus on representation and community and a bit of autobiography. I like to say autobiography because although I don't depict myself very much in my own work, the images are from my perspective. So you get to see the relationships that I have with the people that I paint, which are often family and friends and other community members. And so I like that within my paintings, the intimacy that you get to see, this sort of familiar setting, this familiarity between the people that I'm painting, or from my perspective, like a window into what I'm seeing into their lives. And I want their lives and likenesses to be represented, so it's very important to me that I paint them. So I was asked to participate in the show by my friend Nina Sanders. I met her during a residency in Santa Fe at the School for Advanced Research. And I was really happy to join because I really connected with the title of the show. For me, I've been looking at the idea of creation from different perspectives or different ideas, and some on a personal level, but also on a general level as well. So for me, I see creation as a way to reconcile or heal personally, or creation as a way to make something that represents who you are, or creating something as a way to challenge the ideas of what can be Native art. And the work that I included in the show touches on each of those perspectives or each of those ideas. And now I'd like to talk about each of those works. First, I wanted to touch on my beaded frames that are included in the show. I actually started these works back in 2016, and it's been an ongoing project for me. I've titled this series the Frame Series, really more because I'm not very creative with titles of things, so they're just beaded picture frames, and I've been using them as a device to touch on different subject matters that I've experienced, but also larger themes that I feel affect other Native families or communities. So far there are about 7 frames in total since I've started the project, and this is where I got deeper into creating something as a way for me to work through past events that I've experienced that have impacted me quite a bit and heal from those in the making of the work. And so of these 3, which are very different, but each frame touches on a different or includes a different family member, and is meant to represent my relationship to those people that I know. And so the frame on the far side is for my Aunt Becky. My Aunt Becky, she's the oldest aunt of her sisters, and with that title comes a lot of responsibility. So as the older sister tends to take on a lot of weight that her younger sisters kind of bring to her, and does a lot of worrying, and you could just feel this sense of like weight on her shoulders. And so I wanted to represent that in the frame itself by just piling on the beadwork onto the frame, that although the flowers are pretty, they're nice, kind of the same as having a relationship with siblings can be very nice, and family can be very, very nice. There are points in which it gets a little heavy, and so I wanted to show that or represent that within her frame as well. So there's a picture of her inside of here where she's just kind of looking off from her couch, and then she's obscured by these things that she's being weighted by. And so I like that about this particular frame, is that there's some mystery to it, and I like that, you know, I don't have to give everything away, that there's some things to keep for myself. The next frame is a piece that I started at first that was meant to be just general. This is for my future children. What are things that I want them to connect to or learn or understand? And then when I started it, I did have a newborn, and so I was creating this at the same time as being a new mother. And so it became very important to me to have him be connected to my family, but also connected to the land and culture and belief systems, but also in other ways protected from some of the things that have impacted my family. And so the image in the background is of Corn Planter, who's my 7th great grandfather. And so I like this piece because adding a new generation to the family, Elliot, my son, is continuing that legacy of Corn Planter. And so it's a picture of my cousin who's holding him with Elliot as a newborn, showing that idea of protection or holding. And the final frame, I actually created this at the very beginning of the pandemic. I didn't make much work during this past year, more because of just with teaching at a college, the responsibility became even greater and the amount of work became greater as well. So I didn't have much time for my own sorts of work, but I was able to create this and then my frame of my Aunt Becky. I really wanted to make a frame that touched on my relationship with my cousins, who I'm very close to. So my cousin Sheena, Paige, Dan, and my cousin Tom, and a few others. And what I like about our relationship is that we have a lot of humor between us, and we kind of poke fun at each other as a way to humble each other as well. So there's definitely times when you go visit, somebody gets their feelings hurt, but it's a fun dynamic, I think, and that we keep that going. So I wanted something a bit more light, a bit more humorous, because I think a lot of families in general, but also Native families, could use humor as a way to connect with each other, for sure. This painting that I included, I actually created this back in 2018 during a residency at IAIA. I like this painting because I feel it represents the ways in which people can create something and then wear it as a form of representing who they are, or the things that they're interested in. And I like that about the portraits that I paint, is that it's up to the person to choose what things they like to wear, or how they like to pose or anything, so that how they define their relationship to their culture is completely up to them. And so in painting or creating this painting, I liked that her hands were sitting on her lap, that you could either read it as her, the creator, her as the appreciating this creation because she's wearing it. And so that was that painting. And then finally, a painting of my Uncle Steve. I call him my muse. Actually, I paint his image quite often, which is really fun. He's become recognizable in a lot of my work with people who are familiar with it. I'm actually working on a new one right now. And I paint more in this particular style of just the everyday setting of them sitting in their house, or we're outside, we're just relaxing. I like these moments that are very relaxed and unposed, so that you can feel some of that sense of familiar with the image in some way, that even if you don't know who he is, if you feel his kindness or see that the way in which he's looking at the time it was me, looking at me, that we're engaged in something. And I like painting these scenes because for me it's important to create a diverse sense of what can be native art, that it can be oil painting, that it can depict things that don't play into the perceptions of what native art can be, which is often a criticism of my work, is that people will wonder, like, how is this native art? But it is native art because I created it from my hand, and he is native even if he's not fulfilling any sort of perception of that in terms of what he's wearing or decorations in his house, that he just is because that's who he is.
Thank you so much, Luanne, for joining us and visiting all the way from New York, right? You came from New York. Where about?
I live in Binghamton, New York, but I flew out of Syracuse, so
Awesome.
Kind of, Central New York area.
Very cool. Well, we're really glad that you joined us, and I'm really honored to meet you. I've known of your work, but I never had the chance to meet you, and Nina and I had a lot of really interesting discussions about putting folks that we both know together and having them meet. That was like a part of our creation, and thinking about the exhibition and the show and how we wanted to cultivate new relationships and friendships. So we're really happy to have you out here to spend some time with us, and we hope you come back sometime soon. So
yeah, for sure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and of course thank you to Nina for that as well. It's been nice to talk to the other artists. I've met them, a few of them before, but it's nice to reconnect for sure, especially this past year, not being able to see people.
Right, it's been kind of weird. We've been kind of in our own little corners in our, for over a year now. Now we have the opportunity to kind of just like, relearn how to talk to one another. So it's been kind of interesting, but I really appreciated what you said about, the humor being a part of like our healing. We're already poking fun at one another. So it's been a lot of fun. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Be sure to join us next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, for the next iteration of our series of Artist Talks at Creation. If you don't have time to join us, be sure to check out our website, idyllwild.org/creation. Again, thank you so much. My name's Shalia Ben, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.